Chapter 1. On New Year's Eve, I was ready to propose to the girlfriend I had been with for 3 years. I was also ready to confess my identity as the son of the richest man in the country. But when I opened the door to our apartment, I saw my girlfriend, dressed up, looking seductive and enchanting. The person she was waiting for, however, was not me. "Oh, my dear, you're finally here." As I opened the door, a sickly sweet voice reached my ears. Lillian Vance, who usually cultivated an innocent look, was dressed to the nines, looking utterly seductive. I froze, staring at the scene before me. The roses in my hand dropped to the floor. I couldn't believe that this woman was the girlfriend I had cherished and placed on a pedestal. Perhaps because I hadn't made a sound, Lillian's voice grew impatient. She started crawling towards me, moving past the fallen roses and the engagement ring I had spent so long preparing for her. With trembling hands, I reached out, wanting to pull off the blindfold covering her eyes. Just then, the electronic lock on the door behind me beeped as a code was entered. The door opened, and the person who walked in was none other than Ethan Reynolds, her childhood sweetheart, the idealized love of her life. I had heard Lillian and her best friend mention this man countless times before we even started dating. She still had a photo of the three of them on her phone. It was only after I heard that Ethan, who was far away in another country, had gotten engaged that I began to pursue Lillian. Back then, I naively believed that Lillian had completely moved on from Ethan Reynolds. I never imagined I had been a clown all along. "Looks like I came at a bad time, huh?" Ethan stood in the doorway. The moment he saw me, a flash of surprise crossed his eyes, but it quickly morphed into a provocative smirk. "Sincere Thompson, what are you doing back?" Hearing Ethan's voice, Lillian panicked and ripped the blindfold from her eyes. "What? Did I interrupt something?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice calm as I glanced at Lillian's revealing attire. The sight, which should have been thrilling, now just made me sick to my stomach. Seeing my gaze, she seemed to realize what she was wearing and hastily threw on the robe that was lying to one side. "Sincere Thompson, what nonsense are you spouting? This was just a game of truth or dare with Ethan, dear." "I lost, that's all. It's just a game. Do you have to be so petty?" Tying the belt of her robe, Lillian crossed her arms, reverting to her usual innocent demeanor. It was as if the debased scene of her kneeling on the floor had never happened. "Yeah, man, what's with the petty attitude? Lillian, if I'd known your boyfriend was such a sore loser, I wouldn't have come." "What a buzzkill." Ethan tilted his head up, shooting me a defiant glance. Then, his greedy eyes shamelessly roamed up and down Lillian's body. "Bullshit, shut your mouth. This has nothing to do with you." With a roar, I slammed my fist into Ethan's face, knocking him to the ground. "Damn it, you dare to hit me? Do you know who I am?" "Believe it or not, I can make sure you don't survive in this city." Lying on the floor, Ethan wiped a smear of blood from his lip, his expression one of disbelief. Seeing that he was still making threats, I raised my foot, ready to give his face a couple more kicks. But just then Lillian shoved me aside. "Slap enough, Sincere Thompson. What do you think you're doing? Have you lost your mind?" Chapter 2. Her palm struck my face with force, but the sharpest pain came from my heart. "You're just jealous of me and Ethan, dear, I get that, but what gives you the right to hit him? I never realized you were so emotionally unstable. And you think you can propose to me like this? You have no money, no family background. Are you worthy?" After speaking, Lillian glanced at the ring on the floor. "Sincere Thompson, think about it. If there was really something going on between me and Ethan, would you even stand a chance? Now, apologize to him. Immediately." Lillian stood between me and Ethan, her arms spread wide like a mother hen protecting her chick. She was terrified I would lash out and hurt him again. "Ha, you want me to apologize?" I laughed, utterly baffled by her words, and pushed my tongue against my stinging cheek. "Since you say it's just a game, you wouldn't mind an extra spectator, would you? Go on, please, start your game." With that, I leaned against the entryway wall and lit a cigarette. I took a deep drag, forcing myself to calm down completely. It had taken me 4 whole years to see this woman for who she truly was, but at least it wasn't too late. Sincere Thompson, when it comes down to it, you just want to see me like I was before, don't you? I'll wear it for you when I get the chance. But right now, you must apologize to my Ethan, or we're breaking up." Lillian was still acting righteous, without a hint of guilt. Even now, she thought she could threaten me with a breakup to make me apologize to her precious Ethan. Fine, Lillian thought I was about to apologize to Ethan, and a faint smile appeared on her face. "Let's break up then. But you remember this. You're the one getting dumped without another word to her." I stepped over Ethan's prone body on the floor. I hadn't taken more than a few steps before I heard Lillian's concerned voice behind me, a gentle tone completely different from the cold way she usually spoke to me. "Ethan, dear, are you okay? Does it still hurt?" I let out a self-deprecating laugh. So she did know how to care about someone. The voices faded as I walked away. I had no desire to hear what they would say or do next. It didn't matter anymore. Back in my car downstairs, I called my family. "Mom, don't call off the engagement and sell my current apartment. I find it filthy now." I looked up at the home I had lived in for 4 years one last time and took a deep breath. "Mr. Wallace, take me to my bar." Sitting in the bar I had opened solely for the purpose of marrying Lillian. I huddled in a corner. The image of Lillian kneeling on the floor was seared into my brain. When did she become like this? Or was she always like this? I tried to numb myself with alcohol. I had fought with my parents countless times to get this one chance. If I could hide my identity as a tycoon's son and make it on my own through 4 years of university, they would let me be with her. Seeing that I had persevered, my parents were moved. They were preparing to cancel the arranged marriage they had set for me and agree to my marriage with Lillian, who came from a modest background. I couldn't hide the smile on my face then, eager to give Lillian a surprise. So I sent her a message, lying that I had family matters to attend to. I told her I couldn't be with her for Christmas this year. Then I bought the flowers and the diamond ring, ready to reveal everything. But now, it all felt like a ridiculous joke. Chapter 3. I don't know how long I drank, or how much. The table was soon covered in empty bottles. All I knew was that the bar, quiet when I arrived, was now blasting music for a New Year's Eve party. Suddenly, a wave of nausea washed over me. Under the dim lights by the restroom, I threw up violently. When I came out, I heard 2 familiar voices from the vanity area next door. "Don't worry. Believe me, in less than 3 days, Sincere Thompson will regret this and come crawling back to me, begging for a second chance." Lillian's voice was light and confident, completely unaffected by the day's events. "So that lapdog Sincere really broke up with you over something so small?" asked Brenda, Lillian's friend, in a tone of disbelief. "Well, good riddance. I heard E-Man is back for good this time." As if seeking validation, her friend began to console Lillian. "To be honest, I'll kind of miss Sincere. I got used to him waiting on me like a servant. It's just a shame his family background is so poor. Besides, there's no feeling of conquest with him. He listens to whatever I say, agrees with everything. You have no idea. One time I was in a bad mood. I kicked him awake in the middle of the night and told him to catch a flight to San Francisco to buy me some pastries. He didn't even get mad, just got dressed and went." Lillian said this with a laugh, as if telling a hilarious joke. "Hey, have you heard? E-Man's fiancée is supposedly that little princess from the Sterling family. Can you even compete with that? Why don't you just keep him on the hook before you and Ethan make things official? You know, as a backup plan." I didn't listen any further. I just shook my head with a bitter smile. Birds of a feather flocked together. It seemed I had truly been blinded by so-called love. How had I never noticed what kind of women they were? In my mind, she had always been so pure. I never even told her about this bar, which I founded myself because I didn't want her near a place like this. But years of devotion and emotion now seemed utterly worthless. And now, she was thinking of keeping me on the hook as a backup? Unfortunately for them, their little scheme was not going to work. Even if I hadn't overheard their conversation by chance today, I would never let myself be played by them again. Because the moment I opened that door and saw Lillian's transformed image, All my love for her vanished. All that remained was the humiliation of that scene. To me now, they were lower than dogs. I rubbed my forehead, which was throbbing slightly from the alcohol, and prepared to leave. Hey, what a coincidence. We were just looking for you, and you served yourself up on a platter. Ethan Reynolds, flanked by two rich brat-looking guys, walked towards me. Speak of the devil. But I had no intention of getting tangled up with them. A scummy couple wasn't worth my time. I frowned and walked straight past them as if I hadn't seen them. But one of Ethan's lackeys, a blondie, grabbed me by the collar and shoved me against the wall. Are you deaf? E-Man is talking to you. Did he say you could leave? Chapter 4. In the distance, the duty manager and security guards saw what was happening and started running towards me. But I stopped them with a subtle hand gesture. I wanted to see what else they thought they could do to a commoner like me. Brat, I thought you were so tough. Scared now, are you? Ethan, a cigarette between his fingers, poked me in the forehead. You know, after you left, your girlfriend in that outfit, tisk tisk, she was so hot, haha, you're asking for it. I gritted my teeth, glaring at him, barely restraining the urge to kill him. Just then, Lillian and Brenda walked out. Seeing me, Lillian's face showed an "I knew it" expression as she exchanged a look with her friend. Sincere Thompson, seeing as you followed me all the way here, I'll give you one more chance. As long as you apologize to me and Ethan dear, I'll pretend nothing happened. I forgive you. Lillian smiled confidently and looped her arm through Ethan's, deliberately pressing her body against him. Ethan looked down at his arm, licked his lips, and shot me a provocative, mocking grin. Since Lillian wants to give you a chance, I won't make it hard for you. But a simple apology won't cut it. Ethan pointed to the ground. Kneel, kowtow to me, and call me Grandpa. Then we'll call it even. I let out a contemptuous laugh. Make me kneel? You're not worthy of it, seeing I had no intention of kneeling. Ethan signaled his two lackeys to move in and force me to the ground. I'll break your leg today. Let's see if you kneel. Then when his lackeys struggled to push me down, Ethan grabbed a fire extinguisher from a nearby cabinet and eyed my knees. Ha, you want to touch me? I hope you won't regret it. I was about to signal my men to intervene when a cool, detached female voice cut in. Ethan Reynolds, you're acting so high and mighty. Does your grandfather know about this? Vicky, under the bar's dazzling yet dim lights, Ethan spoke with surprise after recognizing the owner of the voice. You don't get to call me Vicky. The woman, responding coldly to Ethan's name for her, walked to my side and glanced at the lackeys still holding me. Are you not letting go? The two lackeys quickly released my shoulders and scurried behind Ethan. Clearly they knew who she was. Ethan dear, who is she? Perhaps hearing the intimacy in Ethan's name for another woman, Lillian tightened her grip on his arm as if to declare her ownership. Ethan completely ignored Lillian's question. Instead, he shook her hand off, trying to distance himself from her. Victoria, what are you doing in a place like this? Your father wouldn't be happy to know. And don't get the wrong idea, she's just a high school classmate. Tears welled up in Lillian's eyes. She started to step forward to question him, but Brenda pulled her aside. Your relationship with her has nothing to do with me, you don't need to explain. And where I go is none of your business, you have no say in it. And I'll say this one last time, call me Victoria Sterling. You don't get to call me Vicky. Don't always use your grandfather's connection to come to my house. I have nothing to do with you. Victoria Sterling's expression grew even colder. Showing no regard for Ethan's pride, she took my arm. Let's go. You're not going anywhere. Ethan gritted his teeth, blocking Victoria as she tried to lead me away. You dare to stop me? It was clear Victoria was genuinely angry now. I wouldn't dare. You can go, but he can't. Ethan pointed at me, his eyes filled with a murderous hatred. I don't care what your relationship is. Even if the King of Heaven himself showed up today, he is not leaving. You. Victoria pointed at Ethan, trembling with anger. Are you sure? I snapped my fingers. A dozen burly bodyguards in matching suits immediately surrounded us. Throw them all out. And remember, I mean throw Chapter 5. Yes, Mr. Thompson. The duty manager responded respectfully. "Mr. Thompson, this bar is yours?" Everyone looked stunned. Ethan, though he had lost his earlier arrogance, remained defiant. "No wonder you're so confident. It's just a stupid bar. You've offended my Reynolds family. Believe it or not, I can have this place shut down in an instant," I smirked. "Oh, really? I'd love to see you try. What are you waiting for?" Throw them out while I couldn't have them beaten to a pulp. Getting thrown out of the bar at its peak hour would surely be the talk of their social circle by morning. For people so obsessed with their reputation, it was no different from a public slap in the face. "Thank you for helping me out back there." Watching Ethan and his crew get tossed out the door, I smiled and patted the shoulder of the still stunned Victoria Sterling. It was nothing. I just can't stand the way the Reynolds family bullies people with their power. "But you should probably stay away from that girlfriend of yours. Victoria trailed off, hesitating. It seemed she had also overheard the conversation between Lillian and Brenda. "Yes, I will. I have some things to take care of, so if you'll excuse me." After telling the duty manager to take good care of her, I gave Victoria a wave and turned to leave. Though I didn't know her motive for helping me, I was sure of one thing. Lillian's friend had indeed said that Ethan Reynolds' fiancée was Victoria Sterling. Whatever complicated history they had, I figured it was best to keep my distance. The next day, I returned to my parents' villa. The moment I walked in, they eagerly sat me down on the sofa, peppering me with questions about what happened with Lillian. They had never approved of our relationship from the start. Now that they knew we had broken up, they were naturally quite pleased. They were dying for gossip. I didn't go into detail, just gave a vague explanation, but I admitted my mistake and promised to follow their arrangements from now on. "Since you've said that, then your engagement to Victoria Sterling of the Sterling family will be set for sometime next month." Hearing me finally give in, my dad decisively brought up the arranged marriage. "What? Who?" I didn't really care about an arranged marriage, it was a loveless union anyway. But the name he mentioned caught me completely off guard. I never would have guessed that the person my dad said I had been engaged to since childhood would be her. But wasn't she Ethan Reynolds' fiancée? Now this was getting interesting. "Dad, as far as I know, Victoria Sterling's fiancée is from the Reynolds family. How is she getting engaged to me next month?" My question clearly surprised my dad for a moment, but then he laughed. It turned out that our family and the Sterling family had arranged the marriage when Victoria and I were very young. But it was never publicly announced. In recent years, the Reynolds family, seeking to climb the social ladder, had set their sights on the Sterlings. Relying on some old friendship between Walter Reynolds and Theodore Sterling, they had Ethan pursue Victoria. He even followed her abroad when she was studying. Although the Sterlings had clearly rejected the name, Lillian interrupted my conversation with my parents. Chapter 6. Sincere Thompson. "You've gone too far. Even if we broke up, why did you have to terminate the apartment lease?" I frowned when I answered and heard her voice. I had blocked her previous number. She was calling from an unknown one. I was about to hang up, but seeing the worried looks on my parents' faces, I put the call on speaker. "Is your brain made of mush? Do you know what a breakup is? We are no longer involved. If I don't terminate the lease, should I keep it for your retirement?" I had to laugh. Thank goodness my parents' initial opposition had made me hide my true identity. If Lillian had known the apartment was actually mine, she would have probably refused to move out. After a moment of silence on the phone, Lillian spoke as if she had made a momentous decision. "Sincere Thompson, if you rent the apartment again, I'll get back together with you. You can come back too. Otherwise, even if you come begging, I won't pay any attention to you. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Are you delusional? Get as far away from me as possible." I hung up and immediately blocked the number. I really don't know what spell I was under for the past few years to have fallen for her. Before the phone screen could even go dark, Lillian's friend Brenda called. "Sincere Thompson, are you even a man? Do you have any idea you made Lillian cry? Let me tell you, Lillian has already offered you a way out. Don't be so shameless. You can get lost too," I cut her off. I hung up and blocked her number without a second thought. In the following days, my parents dragged me to visit the Sterling family elders, and we officially set the wedding date. I met with Victoria Sterling again. It was during this meeting that I learned from her that she had investigated my entire life, which naturally included everything about Ethan Reynolds and Lillian Vance. That night at the bar, she had specifically gone to check out her supposed fiancé. She also said that if I had been crushed by the situation with Lillian, she would not have agreed to the marriage. I was a bit speechless. It seemed I was the only one who had no say in this engagement. During this time, Ethan Reynolds wasn't idle either. Just as he had threatened, he tried every trick in the book to shut down my bar. But in the end, all his attempts mysteriously failed. Everyone who knew about it began to wonder about the power behind the bar's owner. My name gradually entered everyone's conversations, though my identity was still just that of a mysterious bar owner. However, a subsequent party hosted by the Sterling family would finally introduce me to the inner circle properly. To be honest, I despise this kind of fake socializing, but I had to grit my teeth and endure the endless flattery and greetings. Taking advantage of a moment when my parents were pulled aside to chat, I finally got a chance to breathe. Sucking on a lollipop I had brought, I wandered aimlessly through the vast ballroom. Before long, I spotted a familiar figure in the crowd. It was Lillian Vance. Next to her was Ethan Reynolds. To be able to attend an event like this with him, it seemed they were already together. But what did that have to do with me? I turned to walk away, wanting to put some distance between us. But just then, Ethan noticed me and, with his lackeys in tow, approached with a snide tone. Chapter 7. Well, if it isn't the big boss of the bar? How did someone of your status sneak in here? Did your new girlfriend, the one who just turned 60, bring you? Ethan, dear, why bother talking to someone like him? He's willing to debase himself for a bit of money. I'm so glad I broke up with him. Lillian was still clinging to Ethan's arm, practically melting into him. Exactly a wimp like him, a kept man. Why would you keep him around? For the holidays? The back and forth between Ethan and Lillian was so absurd it almost made me laugh. So, they thought my bar and my money came from some rich sugar mama. Have you been eating too much crap lately? Why are you spouting such nonsense? Stay away from me. You've still got some on your teeth. I couldn't be bothered with them. Getting into a fight with them at an event like this was beneath me. Ethan subconsciously licked his teeth, then realized what I'd said and spat on the floor. You're the one who eats crap. You have no background, yet you dare to challenge me? Take a look at yourself and see what you are. I looked at him completely unfazed. So you enjoy bullying people with your family's power, is that it? Seeing Ethan at a loss for words, Lillian puffed out her chest and stepped forward. So what if we do? Yeah, not to mention E-Man is the fiancé of the Sterling family's little princess. Even the Reynolds family alone is more than you can afford to offend. Ethan's lackey eagerly seized the chance to suck up, pointing at me arrogantly. However, when Lillian heard this, her expression turned awkward for a split second. Once I marry Victoria Sterling, I'll be able to stand up to the Thompson family, let alone you. The fact that I'd even bother to bully you should be an honor. Ethan clearly lapped up his lackey's flattery, his confidence soaring. Ha! Hearing their words, I couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. What? Realize how ridiculous you are now. It's not too late to regret it. I'll give you a chance. Same offer as before. Kneel, kowtow to me, call me Grandpa, and I'll let you go. Ethan picked up a glass of wine from a nearby table and said with immense pretension, No, you misunderstood. I waved my hand, mimicking the tone Victoria had used at the bar. I just think that when it comes to marrying Victoria Sterling, you're not worthy. Damn it. Who are you talking about if I'm not worthy, are you? My words seemed to have deeply humiliated Ethan, and he grabbed my collar, losing all composure. A piece of scum who can't even keep his own girlfriend, who I played with like a dog. What right do you have to be so stubborn? Get on your knees. I completely ignored his actions, letting him hold my collar. Instead, I looked at Lillian, who was standing beside him. I'm curious. He's already told you he has a fiancée. Are you still willing to be with him? None of your business. You have no right to ask right now. Ethan dear wants you to kneel and apologize. Lillian became flustered and angry at my question. Even though Ethan had just said with his own mouth that he would marry Victoria Sterling, she acted as if she didn't care at all. I truly couldn't imagine what kind of relationship she and Ethan had. Ahem, just then 2 soft coughs from nearby drew everyone's attention, causing Ethan to quickly release his grip on my collar. Chapter 8. Thank you all for coming to our Sterling family's party tonight. I mainly want to announce 2 things. Victoria Sterling stood in the center of the hall, supporting Theodore Sterling. When her eyes met mine, a slight smile graced her usually cool face. Man, did you see that? Victoria Sterling smiled at you. Ethan's lackey seemed even more excited than Ethan himself. Ethan grinned smugly, raising his hand and waving at Victoria. The first matter is that I am retiring. From now on, the Sterling Corporation will be formally handed over to my granddaughter, Victoria Sterling. I hope you will all continue to support her. Mr. Sterling's words caused an uproar in the hall. E-man. If Mr. Sterling means what he says, once you marry Victoria, doesn't that mean the entire Sterling family fortune will be yours? Hearing his lackey's words, a knowing smile spread across Ethan's face. Mr. Sterling lost his only child in middle age, leaving him with just one granddaughter, Victoria. Otherwise, why do you think I would chase after an ice queen like her for so long? Mr. Sterling waved his hand, silencing the crowd's chatter. The second matter is to introduce to you all my future grandson-in-law. Before Mr. Sterling could finish, Ethan confidently stepped out from the crowd. Sincere Thompson, the hall erupted once more, with everyone buzzing about the identity of this grandson-in-law. What? Ethan stopped in his tracks, turning to look at me in disbelief. Sincere, you brat, what are you standing there for? Get over here, Mr. Sterling smiled and beckoned to me. Yes. Coming, I tossed the lollipop from my mouth into the wine glass in Ethan's hand. I told you just now, you're not worthy of marrying Victoria Sterling. Then I smiled, patted his shoulder, and walked to Victoria's side. She naturally took my arm. Their wedding is set for 2 months from now. I hope all of you present will be there to celebrate impossible. Grandpa Sterling, he's just the owner of some rundown bar. How could he be worthy of Vicky? Don't let him fool you, Ethan, on the verge of a breakdown, shouted recklessly. Young man of the Reynolds family, don't think you can act wild here just because your grandfather and I have some history. This is not your place to speak, Mr. Sterling said, his face darkening with displeasure. Besides, Sincere Thompson is the son of the tycoon Richard Thompson. How is he not good enough for my granddaughter? Moreover, their engagement was set when they were children. If you continue this insolence, don't blame me for disregarding my friendship. With your grandfather and having you thrown out as he finished speaking, bodyguards scattered around the room began to close in on Ethan. Wait, I thought the Reynolds family was the one uniting with the Sterlings. So that's the young master of the Thompson family who's never shown his face before. With the Thompson and Sterling families united in marriage, in front of everyone that you enjoy bullying people with power, right? Well, you should go home and get ready, because I'd like to see what bullying people with power feels like to you. Fine, I'll be waiting. Let's see what a Thompson can do to me. Ethan's face was flushed red as he pointed at me, then scurried out of the hall in disgrace. The guests, having witnessed a great drama, now had a new topic of conversation to liven up the boring party. And soon Victoria and I were surrounded by an endless stream of guests offering toasts. Chapter 9. After the party was over and the guests had been seen off, Lillian, who had been lingering in a corner, walked up to me. Sincere. Seeing her approach, Victoria Sterling smiled at me, released my arm, and turned to leave the hall. I'll wait for you in the car. Don't call me that. I held up a hand to stop her from coming any closer. I'm sorry, I know I was wrong. Me and Ethan Reynolds, we really have nothing going on. That time was really just a game, truly. I was forced into it by them. Lillian's eyes were red, her makeup smudged by tears, but what happened that day no longer mattered to me. I know you still love me, right? Let's not fight anymore. Let's get back together, okay? Just like before. We can rent that apartment again, the one filled with our memories. For her to bring this up now, trying to win me back, she must think I'm a real fool. I'm sorry, but that apartment building was mine to begin with. I cut her off coldly before she could continue. But I found it filthy, so I've already sold it. We are over. Don't ever appear in front of me again. With that, I turned and left the ballroom, ignoring Lillian, who had collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. After the Sterling family's party, I had planned to deal with Ethan Reynolds properly. But unexpectedly, before I could even make a move, the Reynolds family suffered a devastating blow. News of the events at the party spread that same night. The rumor that he had smashed a glass and declared war on both the Thompson and Sterling families also went viral. This led all the powers that had business dealings with us to sever ties with the Reynolds family, and the families who were partners with the Thompsons and Sterlings, upon hearing the news, directly targeted the Reynolds businesses. Unable to withstand the pressure, Walter Reynolds personally brought Ethan to my family's doorstep. After some hypocritical pleasantries with my parents, the conversation got to the point. Mr. Reynolds, my son Sincere is the one in charge of the Thompson family now. And even if you were to apologize, you should be apologizing to him. My dad pointed to me, sitting nonchalantly to the side. Hearing this, Walter's mouth twitched. He was clearly unhappy with my dad's deflection, but he still turned to me. Sincere, look at me. I'm an old man about the same age as your own grandfather. I've personally brought him here to apologize to you. Can't you just let it go and not stoop to his level? His attitude of using his age to command respect really annoyed me. The entire Reynolds family was on the brink of bankruptcy, but he made it sound like it was just a small issue concerning Ethan. This old fox. I was certain that if I nodded, by tonight, rumors would be spreading that Ethan and I had become the best of friends. All right, since Mr. Reynolds himself has come to apologize, I can accept. Hearing my words, Walter's face lit up with joy, and he was about to start thanking me. Begin. I didn't give him the chance to speak, instead fixing my gaze on Ethan, who was standing behind him. In your dreams, Ethan met my eyes and shouted through gritted teeth. You insolent whelp, what are you doing? Haven't you caused enough trouble for the Reynolds family? Walter Reynolds stepped forward and slapped Ethan across the face. Grandpa, he wants me to kneel, kowtow to him, and call him Grandpa. Clutching his face, the beaten Ethan finally blurted it out. The Thompson family shouldn't push things too far. Hearing Ethan's words, Walter trembled with anger as he pointed at my family. Don't get worked up, Mr. Reynolds. If something were to happen to you here, word would get out that the Thompson family bullies others with its power. I smiled, glancing at Ethan and emphasizing the words, bullies others with its power. Fine, I'll kowtow for him. Truly an old fox. His ability to adapt was impressive. If it were anyone else, hearing him offer to kneel in his grandson's place, they would probably say, oh, Grandpa Reynolds, you mustn't since you're being so sincere, let's just forget about it. Unfortunately for him, he was dealing with me. His little scheme wasn't going to work. Chapter 10. I stood up and moved to a separate armchair, watching the old fox with a smile. Be my guest, as long as he agrees. I have no problem with it. You. Fine. Trembling, Walter Reynolds walked in front of me and very slowly began to bend his knees. I didn't move, nor did I reach out to stop him, because I was betting. I was betting that he was betting I would stop him. Just as his knees were about to touch the ground, Ethan rushed forward and helped his grandfather up. Then, with a thud, he dropped to his knees and gave me a hard kowtow. Grandpa, I'm sorry, please. Let me go. The sudden turn of events caught even me by surprise. Looking at Ethan, who remained kneeling on the floor, I laughed and replied, Hey, my good little grandson. Grandpa forgives you. Watching the trembling figure of Ethan on the ground, I experienced for the first time what it truly meant to bully someone with power, and I had to admit, using it against someone like him felt pretty damn good. Enough. Is this settled now? Walter Reynolds struck the floor with his cane, his voice seeming to have aged several years. Don't you worry, old brother Reynolds. This matter between us is over. I was originally planning to do something to your family, but you came before I could even make a move. As for what other families think or do, that's out of my hands. I don't know if it was because I called him old brother Reynolds. The old fox finally couldn't take it anymore. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted. Not long after, the Reynolds family publicly announced that they had completely disowned Ethan Reynolds. From that day forward, his actions would have nothing to do with the Reynolds family. It seems they chose to sacrifice the chariot to save the king. But I have to wonder, could it be that the Reynolds family just didn't want to acknowledge me as their grandpa? 2 months later, my wedding with Victoria Sterling took place as scheduled. In the months we spent together, I had to admit I had developed feelings for her. It also made me believe in the existence of fate. At my direction, the wedding was as high profile as it could possibly be. I wanted the entire world to know. I wanted the woman I married to be the happiest woman alive. But just as Victoria and I were in the church exchanging rings, Lillian Vance appeared at the wedding, wearing a wedding dress. She broke free from the staff who tried to stop her and ran to me in a disheveled state. She cried out, holding up her hand. "Sincere, the person you should be marrying is me. I am your bride. Look, this is the ring you were going to propose to me with. I'm wearing it. I accept your proposal. The hostess of this wedding is me." I frowned, looking at her, at this failure of a woman. Her current state truly disgusted me. Not only had she disrupted my wedding with Victoria, but she had also left herself with no dignity. "Are you worthy?" I coldly shook off the hand Lillian had grabbed, throwing the words she once said to me right back at her. How ironic. I once treated her with nothing but kindness, cherished her like a treasure, but she believed I wasn't good enough for her. Ignoring Lillian, whom I had pushed to the ground, I nodded to the security guards to drag the pale-faced woman out. I turned to Victoria with some apprehension. What should have been a grand wedding had become awkward because of Lillian's appearance. I was a little worried about what she might be thinking, but seeing the gossipy smile on her face, my worries vanished. I gently poked her on the forehead and we continued exchanging our rings. After the wedding, life returned to a peaceful rhythm. My relationship with Victoria grew stronger and stronger, and we eventually had our own children. I still had to endure all sorts of parties I disliked. But the upside was that I got to hear a lot of interesting gossip. And it was at one of these events that I heard news of Lillian Vance and Ethan Reynolds again. After being kicked out of the Reynolds family, Ethan became a social pariah. Having lived the life of an idle rich kid, he couldn't find any work. At the end of his rope, he turned his attention to the gold diggers who used to flock around him. He became a pimp. Naturally, Lillian Vance was not spared. In the end, after enduring endless torture and abuse, Lillian killed Ethan during one of his drunken stupors, and for intentional homicide she was sentenced to life in prison. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. After all, my future was dazzlingly bright.